No one at the Helix Bazaar remembered when the Emporium first decided that humans were diplomats, but everyone remembered the consequences. The Helix Bazaar orbited a dead blue star and stretched for 12 kilometers, a cathedral of trade grown from alien alloys and social misunderstandings, its corridors humming with negotiation pheromones and quantum ledgers whispering value into the air. Species came here to exchange anything that could be owned, including time fragments, artificial childhoods, bottled supernova light, and occasionally an entire defeated ideology. The Emporium itself was neutral territory, governed by an ancient consensus engine that believed commerce was the purest form of truth, and that belief had worked for 17,000 cycles, until humans arrived with pockets full of junk and mouths full of opinions. The first human delegation did not arrive with banners or translators or ceremonial gravity wells. They arrived with shipping crates labeled miscellaneous surplus. Captain Mara Ionescu stood at the front of the group, boots magnetized to the marble-smooth floor, staring at a being composed mostly of folded light and regret. "We're here to trade," she said cheerfully, hands in her jacket pockets. The being, later identified as an arbitron of the third balance, unfolded slightly, which was the diplomatic equivalent of bowing. "Trade is dialogue," it replied, voice resonating directly inside the skulls of everyone present. "Dialogue is intent. Intent is diplomacy." Mara blinked, glanced at her crew, and shrugged. "Sure, sounds about right," she said. That shrug was recorded, archived, and later cited as the opening gesture of the human diplomatic doctrine. The humans unpacked their crates in stalls set between a hive-mind fungus consortium and a species that sold memories of sunsets they had never actually witnessed. Their goods were unimpressive by galactic standards. Old music players, knives, printed books, mechanical watches, a chess set missing 3 pieces, and a dented espresso machine that hissed like it hated everyone. Other traders watched with mild curiosity as the humans began to argue with each other about pricing before any customer had even approached. "You can't ask 5 credits for that," said Jun, the ship's engineer. "It barely works." "That's vintage," Mara replied. "Vintage costs more. It's broken character." The Arbitron hovered closer, recording every word. The Emporium's systems flagged the interaction as internal diplomatic calibration. When the first non-human customer arrived, a 6-limbed negotiator species called the Valathi, things escalated quickly. The Valathi extended a tendril toward the chess set. "State your valuation," it intoned. Mara smiled. "Well, it's rare, handcrafted, historical," she said. "But for you, maybe 40 credits." The Valathi recoiled in horror. "40," it exclaimed, its chromatophores flashing legal distress patterns. "That is extortionate." Mara laughed, a sound the Emporium mistakenly classified as aggressive charm. "Hey, everything's negotiable," she said. "Make me an offer." The Valathi hesitated, then offered 12 credits. A polite but firm opening bid in Valathi culture. Mara gasped theatrically. 12, she said. "You're killing me." "At least 30. The Emporium froze. Negotiation loops spiraled. Probability engines flared. An ancient diplomatic subroutines activated. To the Emporium, this wasn't haggling. This was ritualized conflict resolution, an exchange of symbolic violence performed through numbers instead of weapons. The Valathi, deeply confused but culturally flexible, countered with 18 GNR muttered, "Take it." Mara waved him off. 25, and I'll throw in the missing knight, she said. The Valathi agreed, shaken but respectful. The transaction completed, and the Emporium quietly upgraded humanity's classification from minor traders to emergent diplomatic actors. Word spread fast. Within hours, representatives from dozens of species approached the human stall, not to buy, but to negotiate. A crystalline entity asked for asylum from a trade war. A gas-based collective sought mediation over disputed nebula rights. A cybernetic priesthood offered a treaty in exchange for the espresso machine. Mara stared at the incoming requests as her datapad flooded with formal petitions. "Why does everyone want to talk?" she asked. The Arbitron hovered nearby, luminous and pleased. "Your people demonstrate advanced conflict negotiation behaviors," it said. "You insult without offense, demand without escalation, and retreat without surrender." Jun frowned. "We're just arguing," he said. "Yes," the Arbitron replied reverently. "Precisely. By the end of the first cycle, the humans had accidentally brokered 3 ceasefires, to trade alliances, and one marriage proposal between species that communicated exclusively through economic pressure. The Emporium updated its records again. Humanity, apex barter diplomats. Mara finally realized something was off when a procession of armored envoys knelt in front of Stall 7. "We seek your guidance," said their leader, a towering being of bone and silk. "Our war has lasted 7 generations." Mara looked at the kneeling aliens, then at her crew, then at the dented espresso machine. "Okay," she said slowly. "First rule, nobody's first offer is their best offer." The Emporium pulsed with approval, and somewhere deep in its ancient code, a new directive formed. When humans bargain, listen carefully, because the galaxy had just mistaken a yard sale species for master diplomats, and humanity was about to negotiate with the universe whether it meant to or not. The problem with being declared the galaxy's most persuasive diplomats was that eventually someone tried to call your bluff. Mara realized this when the Emporium dimmed its lights, sealed its gates, and announced an emergency convocation usually reserved for wars that ended civilizations. Every species froze, every stall shuttered, and every negotiation pheromone was scrubbed from the air, leaving the bazaar eerily silent except for the soft hum of probability engines recalculating reality. The Arbitron appeared before the human stall, brighter than before, its light folding into complex ceremonial geometry. "Your presence is requested at the Grand Ledger," it announced. Jun leaned toward Mara, whispering, "That sounds expensive." "It always does," she replied, already stepping forward. The Grand Ledger was not a place but a state of being, a chamber of floating symbols where all value in the Emporium was tracked, weighed, and occasionally mourned. At its center hovered the dispute, a gravitational knot of unresolved claims, ownership conflicts, and wounded pride compressed into a single luminous mass. "This," said the Arbitron, "is the Varkesh claim." A massive armored species stood to one side, their carapaces etched with the scars of centuries. Opposite them shimmered a coalition of energy beings whose forms flickered with barely restrained hostility. "We both own the corridor," the Varkesh warlord growled. "We conquered it, we financed its creation," replied the energy collective, their voices harmonizing like angry violins. Mara rubbed her temples. "And you want us to?" She gestured vaguely. "What? Argue at it until it stops." "Yes," said the Arbitron. Jun choked on a laugh, then stopped when he realized no one else found this strange. The Emporium's logic was simple. Civilizations that mastered controlled disagreement without collapse were rare and valuable, and humans did it instinctively over food, prices, and who forgot to replace the air filter. Mara stepped forward, hands open, posture relaxed. "The universal human sign for I have no idea what I'm doing but let's talk." "Okay," she said. "What do you actually want?" The Varkesh answered first, demanding total control, military access, and tribute. The energy beings countered with equal absolutism, demanding exclusive rights, historical acknowledgement, and an apology that would echo across dimensions. Mara nodded through it all. "Right," she said when they finished. "So neither of you is getting that." Gasps rippled through the chamber. The Emporium flagged the statement as extreme diplomatic assertiveness. John whispered, "We're dead." Mara ignored him. "Here's the thing," she continued. "You're both asking for retail price on something you're clearly desperate to offload." The Varkesh bristled. "We are not desperate." "Sure," Mara said lightly. "That's why you've been fighting over it for 7 generations instead of enjoying it." The energy beings flickered uncertainly. Mara walked a slow circle around the dispute, studying it like a used engine. "This corridor," she said, "costs you resources, time, fleets, and reputation. So what if instead of ownership, you lease it?" "Silence." "Lease," repeated the Arbitron softly, tasting the concept. "Joint management," Mara continued. "Profit split, neutral security, automatic renegotiation every cycle." Chen's eyes widened. "That's," he mouthed, "actually smart." The Varkesh hesitated, their war doctrine clearly struggling against the concept of not winning outright. The energy beings conferred in rapid harmonic pulses. "What guarantee do we have?" they asked. "That they will honor this?" Mara shrugged. "None," she said. "Same as any deal worth making." The Emporium vibrated, its systems lighting up with unprecedented enthusiasm. The compromise was accepted. Contracts etched into reality itself. The dispute dissolved, its mass dispersing into clean, balanced equations. Cheers erupted, weapons lowered, Old enemies eyed each other with wary respect, and the Emporium quietly updated its core axiom: human argumentation resolves high-entropy conflicts. That was when things got truly dangerous, because success attracts attention, and attention attracts predators. A new presence entered the bazaar, unnoticed at first, then impossible to ignore. The Culled Syndicate did not negotiate. They acquired, absorbed, and erased. They watched the humans from the shadows, analyzing tone, posture, hesitation, and laughter. They think they are diplomats, hissed the Syndicate's observer. They are merchants with noise. The Syndicate approached the Emporium with an offer no one had ever made before. They offered to buy humanity's diplomatic services exclusively. The Arbitron brought the proposal to Mara with visible unease. They wish to retain you, it said, as a strategic asset. Mara read the terms, her smile slowly fading. They want us to negotiate their expansions, she said, clean up their messes. Yes, replied the Arbitron, and in exchange they will spare your species. Jun slammed his fist into his palm. That's a threat. Mara nodded. Yeah, she said. Wholesale intimidation. She handed the datapad back. We counter, she said. The Arbitron paused, its light flickering in what might have been fear. Counter, it repeated. Mara stepped into the open chamber, raising her voice so the entire bazaar could hear. Here's our offer, she said. You don't get us exclusively, you don't get us cheaply, and you definitely don't get us scared. The Syndicate's presence darkened. You misunderstand your position, they warned. Mara smiled, the kind of smile humans used right before saying something extremely unreasonable. Oh, she said, I understand it perfectly. You want something everyone now knows you can't force. The Emporium froze, sensing a pivotal exchange. Mara continued, you want legitimacy. You want to stop bleeding resources fighting wars that don't pay. And you want someone who can argue your enemies into shaking hands. She leaned forward slightly. So here's the price. The Syndicate waited. We mediate one conflict, Mara said, publicly, transparently. No weapons, no threats, just negotiation. And if we refuse, the Syndicate asked. Mara shrugged. Then the galaxy learns you were afraid to talk. The silence that followed was absolute. The Emporium's systems trembled, recognizing a negotiation tactic so old it predated stars. Shame leveraged through choice. The Syndicate agreed. The mediation was broadcast across the bazaar. Watched by trillions, Mara argued, redirected, conceded strategically, and refused stubbornly. She treated war like a bad contract, and pride like an overpriced luxury. By the end, the conflict ended, not with surrender, but with signatures. The Syndicate withdrew, diminished but intact, and humanity's reputation crystallized into something permanent. Not conquerors, not sages, not heroes, but negotiators who could turn disagreement into structure. As the Emporium reopened and trade resumed, Jun leaned against the stall, exhaling. So, he said, we accidentally became galaxy-level diplomats. Mara took a sip from the espresso machine, grimaced, and nodded. Yeah, she said. Turns out, growing up arguing over prices, jobs, borders, and who owes who lunch was excellent training. The Arbitron hovered nearby, recording history. Your species, it said, turns conflict into conversation. Mara smiled, watching the bazaar buzz back to life. Yeah, she said, we call it haggling. And somewhere beyond the Emporium, civilizations began practicing disagreement, hoping to sound just a little more human.